and talk about this week. And this week, my friend, very, very interesting things happened. Very, very. I don't know if I would call them important. I think they are for the industry, or at least kind of game changers. At least at some level, were announced, were talked about, were analyzed, were predicted, and that is starting with the PS4 conference or meetup that happened last week.
It was called the PlayStation Meeting.
Yeah.
Meeting.
Which,
what a boring name.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really get excited about meetings, right? So it's an odd decision for a name.
And well, at the same time, I think it was spot on because I didn't get excited during the show.
That's
so,
absolutely right. Yeah,
I
we're
guess.
gonna talk a little more about that in detail in a couple minutes. The event took place in New York City, right?
Yeah.
And it was a more intimate event. It wasn't an E3 or a Gamescom type of conference. They had a lot of people from the media on a relatively small space, and they were really suits talking about the future of PlayStation, what they had in store for us.
4K, HDR.
Pretty much VR. And so, yeah, I mean, the meat of the issue here is two things. The first one is, as many of you guys expected, a slimmer version of the regular PS4, right? That was announced first, and that's not one because they are not. It's not like the Xbox One S, which is a separate entity from the regular Xbox One. Mm-hmm. This is the replacement, right, for the PS4. This is not a PS4 Slim. It's a PS4.
Yeah.
Period. It's the next iteration.
Yeah, and it's not that smaller than the original PS4 model. Well, granted, the original PS4 model isn't that big, or isn't a bulky console at all. And so this new PS4 model isn't that much smaller than the original console. It's sleek looking. It's nice. But it has one issue, right? Which you pointed out.
Oh, it has several. But
the main one is the lack of an optical audio.
Yes.
Optical audio out port, which is an issue for many people who use who connect their consoles directly to their home theater setups, or for people who use some high tech, high fidelity phones.
Earphones, headphones.
Headphones, yeah, right. I said phones.
Phones,
right?
yeah.
No, headphones that connect to that port. So that's an issue for many people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that. I mean, it's obvious that Sony has a heat map, right, of how many people use that port. And I'm pretty sure that very few people use that port on their consoles. But it's still an issue that this is a replacement of the console, and now it doesn't include that port some people use. So I think that's the issue, really.
Yeah, I think in general, obviously there were a lot of things, of good things even, to be talked about in this conference. But there were also a lot of this, that was an issue that was repeating itself along the conference, not just with the Slim, but also with the PS4 Pro, which we're going to talk about a little more in detail in a second. With the lack of things that were there before, and you don't really see a reason for them to be removed or not to be added or included. That was the main one for me with the Slim, the optical audio out port, because I do have my audio setup. It's set through an optical cable, right, directly to my audio system. And that's how I use it in my Xbox One, and that's how I use it to watch Netflix and movies and whatnot, right? Yeah. Not having it's an issue for me because then I would have to be, to use the default speakers of my TV, which suck. And most of the times, the TV speakers suck in general.
All of the times, really. I mean, if you compare it to separate,
right, of course,
dedicated
audio systems, right? Yeah. So, and I mean, it's not my case, but it could have been my case, but it's not my case with the headphones. But I know a lot of people that really enjoy using, high fidelity headphones to play because they are, they are great in quality and they give you that extra when it comes to audio and gaming. Mm-hmm. So it's weird to have that. I mean, because I know that regular PS4 has it, right? Yeah. So I don't see why would they want to cut it out. Yeah. I understand it's probably because of cutting costs for the console, probably. But I mean, I don't know. It's a very odd decision to make, being the leader in the market right now, especially when you don't want to make small mistakes and start losing that amazing momentum that they have. But yeah, I mean, in general, those are my impressions of the Slim. I don't really, I lost interest in it the second I knew they didn't have the optical output.
So yeah, your TV doesn't have an optical audio output,
no.
Right? That's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. That's my particular issue, because I otherwise I would have been able to connect my system to my TV instead of the console itself. And yeah, that's my particular, and I know that doesn't apply to a lot of people. But still, I mean, if this was a separate piece of hardware, if this was not the new PS4, the new base PS4, then I would have been fine with it, because I could have choose to buy the other version which has the optical output, and not this one. But their plan is to replace that one with this, so that it turns into it turns into a problem, and it's weird. I really don't know why they did it. In general, I mean, elsewhere, everything else, I don't really. I mean, it's cool. I don't have a problem with it. In terms of aesthetics, I really don't have an issue either. I think it's cool. And the new controller looks sleek. And I mean, everything else, it's neutral. I'm neutral with. I just have an issue with that. So that's for me. I want to know what you thought of the Slim.
Exactly the same.
The same?
I mean, I don't care really, because I already own a PS4, a regular PS4 model, right?
Right.
So, the optical audio is an issue. Not an issue for me really, but I know it's an issue for many people. But besides that, I'm neutral really, because I think it looks nice. Doesn't look that much nicer,
right?
Or even nicer than the original PS4 model. I think it's mostly the same. It sticks to the same aesthetics in a way, and it's
okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
If you did not own as of this moment a PS4, would you be interested in buying this? Or you would wait and rather buy another PS4 along the line, wait for the PS4 that it's already out and buy that one, wait for the Pro and buy that one? What would you do if you were a consumer? You're a consumer, but if you were a consumer that did not own a PS4 as of this moment?
I think I would have gone for the cheapest one.
Okay.
Whether it's the older model, the oldest original model,
right,
or the new Slim one.
Which is the one you have, by the way, right? The oldest of them all.
Yeah, the launch one.
Right. The touch button on system,
the
everything.
Chrome
right. Okay,
thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I would have gone for the cheapest one, whatever. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Because I don't really care much for the Pro right now, because I don't have a 4K TV at the moment, and I don't think I will have one for quite a time. I think so. Maybe one day I can just buy one randomly, right? But it's not something that I'm planning to do really, to buying a 4K TV at all. And I think I will go for the cheapest one.
Okay, yeah. That's fair. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And now that you brought it up, I think it's a good moment to start talking about the PS4 Pro. That was the second part of the conference. Oddly enough, they brought out Mark Cerny, which, I mean, you and I both agree that he's a genius, right? Yeah. He's the mastermind behind the PS4 original. He is the mastermind architect of software architect of Sony. And he's brilliant. Yeah. He's out of this world brilliant. But he's not the best speaker out there. And, I mean, I know it's trivial.
He has a very soothing voice.
Yes.
But, I mean, I don't think...
Not an exciting one, though.
Yeah, and also, I don't think that the issue was his voice at all, or his way of presenting. I just think that what they gave him to present wasn't exciting really at all.
Okay.
I mean, he was talking about TVs and HDR, and, I mean, yeah, cool.
Right, okay.
I can see it. I'm watching this on my laptop screen, right?
Okay.
I
I see what you mean.
Stop showing me 4K footage.
I can't see it right there.
See it.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. I guess, and that goes to my whole point I want to make with the PS4 Pro is that, I mean, if most people, like the vast majority of people that were watching this or are PS4 owners, don't have a 4K TV. The vast majority, right?
Which is a fact, by the way.
It's a fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Why even show? Why even stream a show about 4K, about a 4K PS4 Pro, showing 4K footage to people that don't have 4K screens, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in a way, what problem does this solve?
Right.
Like, who's asking for this? Who is asking for a PS4 Pro? Because Sony's answer in many ways. It was they are directing this piece of hardware to people that so people do not jump to PC. But people are if people that want the highest fidelity in graphics and processing power and that stuff, people are jumping anyways.
Right.
To PC. I mean, if you want the highest fidelity in graphics, you won't buy a PS4 Pro. You will buy a PC anyways, because PCs are even... You can get a more powerful PC than a PS4 Pro by far, right? So, I mean, what's the point? Who's asking for this?
Yeah.
And my main issue is that we're wasting time and resources on something that doesn't solve any single issue with gaming right now. And not only with gaming, but with the PS4 ecosystem in a way. What problems do you solve? Who's asking for more pixels?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what they wanted to address with this conference. Not just because I mean, in the resolution race, they have a fierce competitor coming up next year, right, with Scorpio. But and so I mean, they did touch on the topic. They did talk about it a little bit or a lot about the 4K and how it's going to be upscaled to 4K and 4K this, 4K that, 4K everywhere, 4K in the projectors in the room that no one saw, everywhere 4K. But they also talked about enhanced performance within those, within a plethora of games that they showed too, with Horizon and with a couple others that were shown on the show, where they talked about not just, that the benefits are not just going to be for 4K owners, of TV owners, but also for regular people with 1080p TVs that wanted to have an increase in frame rate, an increase in less dips, less loading times, more stable gameplay experiences, and they did touch a little on that. But at the same time, they did focus on, as you're saying, on the one thing that most of the people are not really gonna be able to enjoy anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't know, it did, I mean, for me, it's a very odd machine. From the get-go, we talked about this plenty, that nor the Scorpio nor this one are consoles that I think should exist. I think they should have waited for a real generational leap.
100% agree. Yeah.
But now that they do exist, I mean, if they wanted to do this, if they wanted to do the incremental hardware upgrades and have a high-end PS4 and a high-end Xbox One, then they should have been, a noticeable change, right? Within the boundaries of, I know the games have to be running on every system and they have to be able to all that jazz, right? But I want to see, if I'm buying a high-end machine, then I want to see real 60 frames per second gameplay, real no dips, no loading times, no, all that high fidelity stuff that they're talking about. But, even though they are promising it, I'm not buying it really. And I don't know, it's a very odd machine that I'm, as of now, not really interested, in buying. Because first, I'm not the market. I don't have 4K TVs. I don't own a PS4, and for playing all those games that they already showed, I can do that on the cheapest system.
It won't even do 4K natively on most games.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I don't get the point with this one.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very, very odd. And I mean, being Sony. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to touch on. I mentioned that they don't have a couple certain things that were given, at least for me, were given. And the PS4 Pro won't have the optical drive for the PS4 Pro won't support Ultra HD Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And that's the oddest thing for me, because I mean, Sony
owns
Blu-rays. Yeah, they pretty much everything that has the Blu-ray brand in it has something to do with Sony, because it's their thing, right? And for them not to allow you to play or to do playback of Ultra HD Blu-rays is a very, very odd thing.
When the Xbox One S
exactly, yes. Yeah. That's the oddest thing of all.
Super odd.
And I mean,
I don't get why they did it.
I understand that the way we consume media, arguably in the present, is through digital distribution.
Yeah.
But there's still a whole lot of people out there, lots and lots of people out there that do own UHD Blu-rays and that want to use them, right? And to have your high-end machine not be able to do that, it's very strange.
And that's just giving a weapon to Microsoft.
Yeah,
that's just giving a weapon to Microsoft to use against you.
And they did capitalize on that. The second the second the show ended.
And well done. I mean,
yeah, they tweeted something about the older and the already out Xbox One S.
$299
in $299. Yeah, it's able to do that, and competing not just with PlayStation but also with the regular UHD Blu-ray players out there, because that's what they cost, right? Yeah. $300. So it's odd, and it does give ammo to Microsoft to start.
A lot of ammo, yeah.
Yeah, to start pounding on the door, and I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah, and you mentioned better frame rates, and yeah, that does improve your gameplay experience in a way. But also, I mean, that isn't an issue with gaming right now. I mean, if I give you a blank piece of paper and told you, please write the 5 issues with gaming right now, I'm gonna assure you that frame rate will not be there. Frame rate is not an issue with gaming right now. You know what issues are, or what people are asking for with the PlayStation? People are asking for backwards compatibility,
right?
Which isn't on PlayStation 4, but is on Xbox One.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can argue that cell processor and whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that is some bad. I mean, that's
right. Yeah.
That I won't ever. Believe that makes it impossible. Absolutely. Second, and I think this is the most glaring issue with the current generation, is just comparing the output of exclusives of this, especially on PlayStation, of this generation right now with a PS3, especially during the end of the PS3 era. Yeah. Sony is not being able to output the same amount of exclusive content.
Yeah.
This generation.
I agree.
And that is an issue, a major issue with video games and this generation. And what are we doing to solve that? The PS4. What does the PS4 Pro do for that? Nothing really. And in fact,
did you say PS Pro?
PS,
I think you did.
The PS4 Pro. What is it doing for this to solve this issue? It's doing nothing really. And in fact, it's even adding to the problem, because now developers have to test on 2 different hardware machines, on 2 different machines, right? And this just adds to the development process of all games that will be put out for the PS4. So I don't get what problem does this solve. Any way I see this just adds more work to developers. When I think that the one thing that you gotta do is make it easier for developers to just put out games on a console and solve this exclusivity, this lack of exclusives, lack of content issues.
Yeah.
That's the major big issue. How many holiday seasons have we gone on the PS4 without a big strong holiday release?
Yeah, we've talked about that. Exactly. 3. Yeah, indeed, they have been absent in the holidays for 3 years now.
Absolutely.
And it's a very odd thing to have the main console out there, not have games, or have games being pushed to earlier next year, or every year, every time, because holiday is the biggest, right? It's the biggest moment for gaming and gamers to buy games. And it's odd. And even then, the exclusive they have, and I'm at the risk of sounding like an Xbox fanboy.
Yeah.
The exclusive they have in general, the average exclusive that they've not just owned, but that they've decided to be their flagship exclusive, have all dwindled down the moment they come out. For instance, Destiny was their big flagship in 2013. When it came out, it got 7, 6.5, low 8s, because it wasn't the game everybody thought Bungie would make. Yeah. And Destiny is a entirely different game right now, and it's a much, much bigger and much, much better game now than 3 years ago. But back then, that happened. What happened this year? This year, they decided to have No Man's Sky as their flagship game, and see what happened. It was a disaster.
And they're doing that because they cannot output themselves
exactly.
their own exclusives.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
That is the issue that they must be solving right now, not fucking pixels.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the issue. Not even frame rates. That's not the issue. That's not what gamers are asking out of this generation. People just want content. People want games. That was one of the greatest things of last generation, and both the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Right. I mean, name 10 Xbox 360 games that were great, and you can name 50 even.
Yeah.
There was a lot of content on that console. A lot of great content on that console. And guess what? 99% of those games ran at 720p or less at 30 frames per second.
Right.
And they're great. They're phenomenal games. They're amazing. Games are great by their narrative, by their game design, by smart and intelligent game design. That is what developers should be focusing on. Not on 4K. Not on making their games able to run at certain resolutions. I mean, that's just losing focus on what matters in video games. And I don't get why both Sony and Microsoft are just wasting so much time and resources on these machines, that the only thing that they do, if they intend really to still be supporting the same generation, is just adding more pixels to the screen and perhaps better frame rates. That's I don't get why that's happening, why that is, and why they see that as an issue that at least on my end I don't see as an issue at all, really.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there has to be also a balance, right? I mean, it's obviously you don't want to play a game that's sub 20 frames per second, right? I mean, they have to have the hardware to run at least at 30 frames with a good everything else, right? And I do get that you need sometimes better hardware to do that, or optimize the hardware you have right now to be able to pull that off. But I do agree entirely in that if they had, and this goes for both of them, for the PS4 Pro and for Scorpio, if they had not expended or costed all the resources they spent doing these machines, and they would have, instead of do that, spend that elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Building up studios, building up more teams within those studios that they already own to make more games, to help every developer optimize their game so that they can run steadily and stably in their ecosystem. Then we would have more content. The same machine, I don't care if it's the same machine or not, but we would have so much more to play with that machine that it would have been, at least for me, would have been worth it.
Yeah.
And I think I agree completely. I think you nailed it with that I would have rather have that more content, good content, than half-assed machines that run things better, but a small amount of things, because that's a big issue. I mean, having great games last generation was, something that happened several times a year. Yeah. And you had really very memorable games that came, repeatedly, continuously every single year.
We haven't had a year like 2007 or 2011.
Yes.
We haven't
exactly.
had
that. That's a big problem, because I mean, you think 2013 and you can think of a couple games that were, at least memorable.
Yeah.
2014 the same.
But most games in 2013, the best games in 2013 were last generation games.
Yeah, oddly enough.
Like Bioshock Infinite, like Tomb Raider.
Like GTA.
Like GTA 5, Super Mario 3D World. And
Yeah, absolutely. And the same goes for the next couple years, right? When, the last generation ended, and this one really started, in big. We didn't really have that many games that you can say, okay, yeah, I remember playing... See? What? Shadow of Mordor, maybe?
2014?
2014?
2014? Oh, crap. The Last of Us Remastered?
Yeah, and that's a PS3 game. I mean...
Yeah.
Because I dare a PS4 owner to say that Knack was amazing, or I dare an Xbox One player to say that Rise was worth it.
No. And those were 2013 games even.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was in 2014? Crap. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So I mean, if they didn't spend that much time, especially Sony, because Sony doesn't have the resources to be spending on other things, right? I could say that Microsoft has a little bit more of money in the bank to do this and then also support other studios, which they should because they're not really doing, ergo Lionhead closing and whatnot. If they had supported that, if Lionhead didn't close, right, and we had a Fable 5, sorry, coming out.
4.
4?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 4.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, absolutely right. If we had Fable 4 coming out this year, people would have lost their minds. If we had another Rare game coming out other than Sea of Thieves, people would have lost their minds.
The Perfect Dark sequel.
Yeah.
That was in development, was canceled, and was leaked. And
there you go. Yeah.
The game design document of that game was leaked, and it looks fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that was canceled. And where is that? Why don't develop? I don't care about Scorpio. I just want games, right? And I also think that both Sony and Microsoft are focusing on power for the wrong reasons. They're focusing on power for more pixels and better resolutions and frame rate, and not for doing and creating experiences that weren't possible before. Because while I was listening to I think it was last week to Kind of Funny, which by the way, if you don't follow the Kind of Funny Games channel, you should. They're one of the best podcasts right now on the internet. I think Colin Moriarty had an excellent point, and he asked a very good question, and it was, tell me one game this generation that wasn't and wouldn't be possible in any single way on an Xbox 360 and PS3. Just one game right now, and they couldn't come up with anyone. Yeah, I mean, there are games that are exclusive to the generation, but you can just tone down a bit, maybe lessen resolution, and add a few more loading screens. Compromise a few things, but they would be able to be playable on last generation hardware. So the point was that they are not focusing on this new power and these new machines for the right reasons, but just for a higher fidelity experience. But that doesn't solve the fundamental problem of gaming, which is the quality of the quality of the game design in by itself.
Yeah.
Right, and there isn't, and I couldn't come up with any game that really is using the power of these machines for something unique. I mean, the best thing that I can come up with, which is the closest to something new and innovation in this generation, is what Microsoft is doing with a cloud in Forza, right? With what was the name of the Drivatar thing?
Yeah, and
what they're trying to do with Crackdown,
yeah.
Right? And that kind of stuff. But Sony on their end, I mean, Uncharted 4 could run on a PS3. Absolutely. Just
wouldn't look as nice though. But
wouldn't look as nice, but it would be able to run over there.
Okay, I get your point.
Same for any other game. Same for any other game on the PS4.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think you also brought up a very important issue that I think it's important to mention. They upping up the power for the wrong reasons. I think both of them, I mean Sony and Microsoft, started doing this. There are certain things that, most of the time the consumer is right, and most of the time you give the consumer what they want. But there are certain things that you cannot let the consumer drive. And sadly enough, this generation, consumerism and consumers out there and that's not that's not like a rant or anything against consumers, right? The general public.
Yeah.
But consumer-driven interest in high fidelity graphics, in this, we want 4K, we all want better, 1080p, boo, 720p, it's terrible. All of that has, drove us in this path of being where we are, right? Yeah, exactly. This pixels wars. That's the perfect term. And people out there in Microsoft and Sony, they have people that know these issues, right? They have people that know that visuals are not everything. That you can have a perfectly fine and perfectly fun game running at sub 720p, and you're gonna remember that game forever because it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And we have plenty of examples out there that did that, and that are games that we're going to remember forever, and that we don't think that's not a good game because it looks crappy. Of course not.
No.
So, I mean, they started focusing on, pleasing the consumers, or at least this vocal minority of consumers that all they want is more pixels on their screens, and that forgot about the real experience that gaming brings with it. And that's a very, very big issue for me with this, console generation, with this console cycle at least. And yeah, I mean, they're doing things for the wrong reasons, and hopefully enough, I hope that they start rerouting their mindset to something more akin to what we had last generation, or the previous generations in general, where pixels didn't really matter that much.
Didn't matter really.
Oh yeah, at all. So I mean,
it was content, and that's what still matters really, because I mean, some of the best games or the best discs or packages right now out for both the PS4 and Xbox One are compilations and remasters. The Last of Us remaster, which is still, in my opinion, the best game out right now on the PS4. The Uncharted collection,
right,
which is phenomenal, right? But it's those are PS3 games.
The BioShock collection.
The BioShock collection, which is three phenomenal games, but those are remasters of games from last generation.
Absolutely. The Master Chief collection.
On the Xbox One, the Master Chief collection.
Absolutely.
A rare replay.
The rare replay, yes.
I mean, phenomenal games, right? Don't get me wrong, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark, oh my god, those are phenomenal games. But those are old games brought to new hardware. So what are you doing?
What was the biggest news that came out of the Xbox One camp in years? Backwards compatibility.
Exactly, because just the catalog of that generation is way better than the catalog of this generation. And so the question is, what are you doing with these new machines in order to justify even that they exist in a way, right? Yeah, better fidelity and 1080p or 900p or 60 frames, whatever. But what are you doing with that? I mean, what is the content? And that's the issue. And they're using indies to fill those gaps. And yeah, indies are awesome. There are many, many great indie games, right? But 99% of those indie games would be possible on a 360 or on a PS3.
That's absolutely right. I agree 100%.
So, I mean, and it's not that I want just games that wouldn't be possible really on a few years ago, but it's the content, it's the new content, the new content that takes advantage of what you can do with this new piece of tech. And I think they are not delivering on that. That's the main issue with the generation. And both the PS4 Pro and the Scorpio do not do any single thing to solve that problem.
Yeah,
absolutely. They even worse.
Yeah, they make it more complex.
Right, the issue. And just moving a bit aside from just bashing Sony, right, and going to a bit with Microsoft. Now I get why they talk about Scorpio at E3. Mm-hmm. And I think you remember that I disliked their show of Scorpio, the announcement. Now I get it. Now I get it why they did that. And you know what? I take my words back. It's Microsoft that was fucking brilliant, because they knew. I mean, they had information on what the PS4 Pro was. They knew it was 4.2 teraflops, and that's why they came out with the 6 teraflops, 6 teraflops, 6 teraflops.
4.4.
4.2.
2. Sorry, 4.2.
What I said?
2.2.
2.2. Oh, yeah. 4.2. Sorry, and that's why they came out with a 6 teraflops, 6 teraflops, 6 teraflops, because now they have the upper hand on this pixel war, right?
Yeah.
And if this pixel war matters to people, or to the people for whom this matters, now Microsoft has the advantage, right? And my God, like now I think that the ball is right now on Microsoft court.
Yeah.
And I think that they have like a very good ball on their court that they can just throw at Sony's face. And
in hindsight, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, in hindsight, seeing that announcement, and people were a little baffled. People were really wondering, why would you announce two consoles on the same conference, the S and then the Pro, the Scorpio? It doesn't make sense. What are you doing? Now you see it back and you understand, as you said. I mean,
because they knew what Sony was
and they really nailed that.
They nailed it.
And everyone said, the 6 teraflops is the best, amazing, more powerful console ever conceived and whatnot. You now see why they did that. And I think, I still disagree with the Pixel War and the console wars in general, and I think they're stupid. But they did create an ecosystem where they were going to be able to bring to have the upper hand and to have, as you said, the ball in their court, and they are able to now capitalize on that. And I mean, for the one part, I think in general it could be a good thing to start seeing this back and forth now. Now I want to see what Sony is going to do when Scorpio comes out, and then I want to see what Microsoft's going to do to counter that, right? Yeah. And now we have competition, and competition is healthy.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they go the easy route, they're going to be coming out with hardware, and I don't care about hardware. You want software. I want content on the consoles, right? That's right? I want content on this machine. But yeah, I mean, Microsoft knew what Sony was going to do, and if they didn't announce the Scorpio, now everyone would be like Sony. Now everyone would be talking about the PS4 Pro as the best, most powerful thing on the console marketplace. Yeah. But people aren't talking about that. People are comparing the PS4 Pro with the Scorpio and just talking about how underpowered it is against the Scorpio. And that is an issue for Sony. Yeah. And that is something that Microsoft pulled off with that what I still think is a horrible announcement video. Right. But it works. It works, right? Because now they have the upper hand. Now they got the word out to the gaming audience and telling them that they have the better machine.
Yeah. And having that announcement prior to this one, it's because if they would have announced Scorpio later, the word out there would have been, it's more powerful, but it was an answer to Pro.
To Pro.
And in this case, it's not that way because their announcement came first, right?
And it could be an answer for Pro.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do think it's an answer for Pro.
Probably.
But they took advantage of Sony's
not
silence.
On people's minds, exactly.
They took advantage of Sony's silence and just jumped forward.
Yes.
Right? They ran towards the finish line and waving the Scorpio flag before Sony even
had a chance to speak up.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, I mean, we had confirmation of the Pro way before. Well, no, a couple weeks before E3, right? Andrew House he confirmed it. He said they weren't going to talk about it and whatnot, which thankfully they did not, because if the announcement were back to back, the backlash would have been even fiercer, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation. But I mean, we'll have more to say about this particular one when more things about the Scorpio are announced and we have a little bit more of details. Because right now we only have 6 teraflops.
Yeah.
Yes, to talk about, and that's pretty much it, right? There's not really much information out right now. But for the Pro, let's just skim real quick over the last details that they were talking about on the conference after they talked about 4K. Yeah. They're going to add, and that's a very cool thing, actually. This is a very cool, positive thing that I think Sony did. They are going to, not just Pro is going to be compatible with high dynamic range with HDR, but they're making every single PS4 out there compatible with HDR as of now with a patch, which is weird and shady, because why wasn't it there before? If the machine was capable, but whatever the case, it's now available for everyone, and that's very cool, because Microsoft's console, it's not able to do so. At least the regular one. It's not. The S, it is.
The S does, but the regular one. And that does make me wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's very, very cool that every PS4 is now able to output things with HDR, which is a very cool, if you like visuals, then it's a good enhancement to have, if you have the, appropriate equipment to see it.
Yeah, an HDR compatible TV.
Yes, exactly. But it's cool. I mean, I like that every PS4, not just the Pro, is going to be able to do it. And also they talked about VR, which there they said they didn't focus on the graphics per se, but they focused on the frame rate this time around, saying that the Pro was going to be able to have, either more frames a second or a more steady, experience with their games, which is cautiously, it's good for the Pro, but it's odd to think about it from the original PS4 perspective, because then if I have a PS4, am I gonna not run them properly or enough, with enough quality? But in any case, it's a good thing for the Pro to be able to play with VR, right? And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. They announced. They showed a couple games that we've seen before, like Horizon, like
Mass
Effect, which was very cool, by the way. It was things that we hadn't seen before.
Unexpected.
Very unexpected. And I mean, the game is still in an early state, but it looks phenomenal, right? It looks amazing, that game. Yeah. I'm very excited for
Mass
it.
Effect,
yeah, exactly. I'm very excited for Andromeda. And, you know, they showed it in 4K for the people that were there. They showed it with HDR. And, you know, the media that was there was able to see the comparisons behind the cameras and whatnot. And they say that it's slight, but it's noticeable. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Spider-Man was also present, I think. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's it for the conference. Very, very odd announcement. I don't know if it was, you know, at the end of the thing, if it left Sony in a better position or in a more defensive, not as, you know, not with the momentum they brought with prior to.
I think Sony lost a lot.
Yes.
On that show and against Microsoft. I think that Microsoft is now, instead of being an underdog, I think Microsoft has now positioned itself as still second place on the console war, but as a very fierce, but as a very fierce and dangerous competitor. Yes. I think that Microsoft is now a danger.
Yeah, I mean, to Sony. Finally they have the tools to actually, you know, fight their way back, and that's an interesting thing. I mean, yeah, I want to see how this develops with time. Yeah. Sony still has, I mean, 2-to-1 console sales out there, so it's still a long way, but I like it. I mean, competition is always great, and both machines, I mean, in general, are doing amazingly well, right? The A1 is still outselling the Xbox 360 in the same time frames,
which is wow.
Yeah, it's impressive, and I mean, not to say I have the PS4, right? I mean, it's doing a crazy job of you know, selling consoles out there. So yeah, very interesting thing.